Thanks again, guys. That was really fun. Thank you for all the donations. On behalf of CBF, thank you so much. Before we get started with the chat with Will, I wanted to have a couple people come up and talk about some things that they're doing. First up, I wanted to have Lori. Lori, do you want to come up and just say a few words about what you're doing? Do you need the mic?
How's everybody doing? I have someone here from Economic Development. I don't know, some of you have probably been to Annapolis Soup. It's basically a crowdfunding organization, and I apologize, but I had to put a little hiatus. My husband actually has been to Afghanistan for a while, and I have a 2-year-old, so I put it on the back burner, but now we're trying to reinvent it with Annapolis Economic Development I'm working with, and Lara's trying to help me figure out when and where to do it. But one of our most important things is just to find out, basically we did an event, it's catered around an event, you pay a couple dollars, and then we pull the money and we get donations. So if you know anybody that wants to donate some services to a business, it could be legal services, it could be anything that would be applicable to a small business or person, please let me know. We have, where's Karen? Karen Simos left. She donates meeting room space, we get IT services donated, we get business card printing services, and then the winner wins all those services plus the cash. So if you or you know anyone who would be interested in vying for this money, please let me know, but we're going to try and pick a date sometime soon. And then also, one of my biggest news, and I don't think Ryan knows this, is that we're going to be working on a small business summit, is what I'm calling it. I don't know, maybe I'll change the name. But basically, it's just, I get so frustrated because a lot of people don't know about Ryan's event, a lot of people don't know about Soup, a lot of people don't know about SCORE. If you don't know what SCORE is, Google it. It's the greatest thing ever. It's free sources for your business, to mentor your business. And they're all professionals that have done a lot of different things. So please, if you're interested in helping out with the Small Business Summit, it's bringing everyone together. Annapolis Economic Development, Anne Arundel Economic Development, Entrepreneurs Exchange, this group, everybody, anybody that's involved in small business, bringing them into one place for a day, coming together, having meetings, having presentations, I don't know, maybe a crab race, who knows. But we're gonna make it fun. And if you want to get involved, it's probably going to be like early next winter or next spring. It's going to take a year to pull off because we're trying to pull the community. It's going to be at the community college, a whole day thing. And if you want to help me on the planning committee, I need as many people as I can to help me. As Ryan knows, we're all like overstretched on trying to help, but I do all this stuff for free. So, and last but not least, 3 weeks from tonight, I'm having a business mixer. Basically, I'm running for office and I'm running for small business. So if you want to come support small business and come support me at the Waterman's Bar in Edgewater, and if you want to be on my list, just let me know. But you come out and it'll be a networking event and also help get the word out about my campaign. So thank you.
What are you running for?
Maryland House of Delegates, District 30A, which is what you're sitting in right now. Thank you.
All right, and so as part of our group, we want to get as many entrepreneurs involved as possible. So we do something called an a cappella pitch, and it's where someone comes up and pitches what they're doing. And previously we had Dale's been here, but he has a new announcement. Do you want to come up and tell us? He has some really big news. So Dale Crowner has. Well, I'll let him.
Sure.
It's all about it.
I won't take too much
This
of
is
the time.
really cool, yeah.
How you guys doing? My name's Dale. I've met some of you, others I haven't yet, and I hope to do that in the near future. A little bit about myself. I'm an active duty Navy lieutenant stationed over here at the Academy, working over on the public works side right now by Halligan Hall. And I'm finishing up a Kickstarter campaign as of 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. So I'm funding a makerspace for kids called Maker Kids. So I don't know if anybody knows what a makerspace is. It's kind of like like the old school wood shops, I guess, if you want to call it that. A lot of people had those in high school. I didn't. I went to Annapolis Christian. I'm a hometown guy, local guy. We didn't have that over there, but a lot of people did. And that's kind of stuff has gone away. Having the maker, I guess, mindset and the aspect of being innovative and being creative. And they're popping up all over the country, really, makerspaces are. They have fabrication labs too, which have 3D printers and laser cutters and all these cool little gadgets that people can see and work with and make their ideas come to life, because a lot of people have these great ideas, but they don't have the resources to make them a reality. Big companies like Tech Shop, they're opening up too. There's one in DC that's going to open up with the help of DARPA to help launch different platforms for prototypes for businesses. But of all these things that are popping up over the nation, there's not a lot of stuff for kids. And kids are naturally innovative and naturally just want to get into stuff. They want to take stuff apart, see how it works. They're afraid to do it because it might get in trouble. So I know I did as a kid. I took apart pretty much everything I get my hands on. So I'm still alive today, thank goodness. But I want to have a spot where kids and parents and families can come together, collaborate on different ideas, different projects. Maybe work on a science project, take apart different things and put it back together. Maybe take apart an appliance and then put it back together and see how it worked, or make it do something different. So to wrap it up, I started a Kickstarter campaign back January 23rd, I believe, for $4,000, and as of tonight, I'm at 4,971. So I eclipsed it. So I appreciate everybody who gave and is still going. With that money, I want to get opening some first few supplies for my pop-ups. A couple of 3D printers. They have some cheaper ones like Printer Bots. You can get a whole kit for like $250 to $300. And also just other hands-on technical stuff that kids can do, and stuff to inspire creativity and innovation. So you can make cool stuff like a craft derby thing. Inspire future architects and everything. So it's really about collaboration with families. Too many times I go out, and I'm guilty of it too. We go out to dinner, and you got a mother and a father on their iPods, and you got or their iPhones, and you got the kids on their iPods, and they're not really talking to each other. And everybody's got their head down, and in 10 years, everybody's gonna walk around like this. So if I had, something that people can come together and have like a lot of do-it-yourself, wouldn't it be cool moments come to life? Then I'd like to have that in this area and give back to the community. So that's my acapella pitch.
A makerspace to Annapolis.
Real quick.
Sure.
Do you remember the video?
Yeah.
The link that you sent out?
Yeah.
Can you resend that out?
Yeah.
And then put a little blurb in there and have everybody resend that out on their own LinkedIn and.
Yeah, it's on Kickstarter, and you can go to Kickstarter. By the way, Kickstarter is a way to raise funds from the crowd. It's a crowdfunding site, and you pitch your idea, and people can just pitch in whatever they want. And he raised $4,000 like that to start this, and a lot of people in this room donated. I know because we sent it out to the group, and a lot of people donated.
Thanks to you a lot for sending that out.
Yeah, no problem. It's a great thing that you're doing. So we're going to make this kind of an open discussion. So if any time there's something you want to ask, just pipe up and say it. But first, I want to kind of tell you a little bit about Will before we get started. Will, and this is a long list of things. I had to write this all down. I mean, goodness, you do so much stuff. So Will is the president and CEO of the Chesapeake Bay Foundation since 1982. He's the vice chairman of Johns Hopkins Medicine Hospital and Medical School, a board member of the Baltimore Community Foundation, director of the Central Maryland Transportation Alliance, an honorary board member of the Garden Club of America. Halfway through, I'm going to take a break. All right. He's served as director of the Board of Advisories and Trust Company, the Greater Washington Board of Trade Green Committee. He's on the UMBC Board of Visitors and served as a founding member of the Living Classroom Foundation, the Metropolitan Washington Smart Growth Alliance, and the Institute at the Venice Lagoon. And in the past, he's been a trustee of Washington College. He's received 3 honorary doctorates and was a recipient of Washingtonian Magazine's Washingtonian of the Year Award, and received the Speaker's Medallion from the Maryland House of Delegates for outstanding contributions to the citizens of this state. That's a lot of stuff, Will, and thank you very much. I'll put this down.
Stick around long enough that you can.
So that's a long list of stuff. First of all, I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, you are incredibly active, and it's inspiring to hear about that, because we all try to do so much, and to see you actually doing it and making such a big impact is really thankful to have that. So first of all, I guess where do you get the energy? Where do you get the motivation? What drives you to do this stuff?
Well, when I get to come out and hear somebody say, "I got a lot of money on your crab, Jim," that'll carry me for a whole nother week or two. A lot of money on your crab, Jim. Great. What a great line.
Yeah, I should quote that and save it on the website.
Bands in the Sand. Jim's been a great volunteer for Bands in the Sand. I might have to repeat that one. People wonder, what the hell is he talking about? Yeah.
Should we bring the track out for that?
Yeah, we bring it. And Carolyn Ricketts on our staff coming out tonight. Let's give Carolyn a hand for coming out. I started the Chesapeake Bay Foundation right out of college. It was my first, real job after construction and all that. It has been something that I've grown up with. We're now an organization with 200 staff, 200,000 members, a member in every state in the Union and 14 foreign countries, but 90% of them are right here in the Bay region. But the answer to your question is that CBF has given back so much more to me, and I really believe this, than I've given it to them, because it has allowed me to have an opportunity to do the sort of things you described. And to serve as a director of Brown Advisory, we now have $50 billion under management. It's sort of the new Alex Brown in Baltimore. That's just a huge opportunity, and I never would have had it if I hadn't been running CBF.
Wow, that's awesome.
Thank you.
So what was it like? I mean, so you started, you said that was kind of your first real job. What was it like back then? What was the foundation like back then?
This was 1976. We had 6 employees. We had a budget of about $150,000. We were on one floor of the old church down at Prince George and East Street. Yet we had exactly the same mission, to save the Bay. And our work was teaching kids in the field legal representation and scientific representation and land conservancy and habitat restoration, all the same sort of things we do today. It's just that we were too big for our britches then. I mean, we were very small, mostly working in Maryland. Now we're in Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, Washington, and a little bit in West Virginia, New York, and Delaware.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, when you think about when you think about where it was with 6 people, $150,000 that long ago, and how it's grown and what you've done as part of that. It's a big part of what we do as entrepreneurs, right? I mean, we're trying to take something that's small and is starting as an upstart and build it and make it really impactful. And so, along the way, you got to be innovative. You need to be able to change and adapt. In the start where we call it pivoting. Like things are working, you're heading one way and you find out, I need to be going this way. So, what was some of the points at which you figured along that way you need to pivot or change or facing adversity like that?
Well, a not-for-profit, if it's not run like a business, it's not going to be a successful not-for-profit. So what you all as startup entrepreneurs are facing, and I think some of you have a little bit of talking, this is hardly your first attempt and your first success, but it's exactly the same as starting a not-for-profit. The first thing in any business is the client first, and trying to make what you do serve your client and be of value to your client. For us, our client is the Chesapeake Bay, but let's face it, the clients are the members who take money out of their pockets and literally are investing in the work we do, and the return we can give them, the product we sell to them, is trying to make a difference in the Chesapeake Bay and all the rivers and streams which feed into it. So we made a lot of mistakes. You have to learn from your mistakes, but it's just sticking to your mission and trying to do it well, hire good people, and be relevant to your clients. And that's what we've always tried to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff along the way, and I think, especially over the last 10 years anyway, I mean, with technological innovation and things moving forward, with a startup, you're oftentimes, you're dealing with so many things. You're trying to do so much in a short period of time. So you're trying to, raise money. You're trying to hire people. You're trying to get the product right for your customers. You're trying to make sales, all this stuff. And trying to balance all that's difficult. And, I was thinking about, what it would be like to be in your shoes, even though it's impossible to contemplate that. But, you're dealing with, you have the farmers, the watermen, the recreational users, politicians, lobbying, all that stuff. What do you do to kind of encapsulate all this stuff and serve everybody? Because, it's really, everybody has an interest from one end of the spectrum to the other. And so how do you kind of work with all those different things in mind? Not to mention running the actual business of the foundation.
There was one time in my life that I bet is a lot like what many of you go through every day. And I started in '76. I actually worked for 2 organizations for the first few years. There was another startup that didn't make it called Expedition Research here in Annapolis. If any of you are old-time Annapolitans, you'll remember them. We matched people who wanted to go on scientific and exploratory expeditions with expeditions, and we found sponsorship for expeditions. It was undercapitalized and never really made it. But once the founder of CBF, who I worked for in the beginning, retired after 10, 15 years, we had a new executive director, we called our CEO executive director then, come in, and he washed out after 18 months. The board fired him, and they made me acting. I was 27 years old, and they did a national search for a superstar. I don't know if you've read any of the literature about looking for CEO superstars for companies, for nonprofits, for universities, and how often that works. So I was doing the work of 2 people because I had been the assistant director, and so the director was gone. I was the director and had no assistant director. We just had a German filmmaker named Jochen Breitenstein, I don't mind mentioning his name, run off with $90,000 of the United Virginia Bank sponsorship money for a major film on the Chesapeake Bay. I knew I was in trouble when his lawyers were calling me to try and find out where he was. And on and on and on. And I think I probably slept about 3 hours a night for 6 months. And when I did that, I said, hey, maybe I can do this job. And I raised my hand, and then they started looking at me, and ultimately I got it. But you know, what you have to do what you have to do at difficult times. And that was one experience which I'll never forget. But I learned a lot, and I think I grew a lot.
That's awesome. I mean, I think, you know, if anybody here has started a business or has a startup, you probably face something not of that magnitude, but something really devastating where it keeps you up at night. And so I think we can all relate to that.
We ended up getting new sponsors, and Walter Cronkite turned out to be the narrator for the film, and it won a Cine Golden Eagle. So it all worked out well.
It's a happy ending. That's awesome. So you had mentioned a company, a green tech company, when we were talking. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I don't know, we're interested in some of the green tech that's going on.
Sure, and I don't know much about green tech, and I'd love to hear more about from you all. But there's just one company that has been very active with us. That's a startup from here in Annapolis. Their offices are in Baltimore, but it's Bambico. Anybody know Susan Applin? She and her partner came out of Williams-Sonoma. It's a green home products company. And they just went through their first capital drive. They raised about $4.5 million from VCs, from one VC and a lot of private investors. And they're doing very well. Looks like they're going to get a major market in Whole Foods. And they're all online, so it's no retail. But check them out, Bambico.
Okay.
Great company.
Cool. Yeah,
Great.
we want to get more green tech involved with what we're doing here. So
every product they sell is sustainable in one way or another.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So tell us about some of the ways that maybe we can get involved. I mean, I've looked around the website. I saw some of the stuff. You know, I don't mind going out and getting my hands dirty. I've enjoyed that. You know, like tell us about some of the stuff that the CBF does around the Bay and the estuary.
Well, you know, everybody says, what can I do to help the environment? What can I do to help the Bay? And there are tons of things, and there are lots of websites, and you know, we all say, you know, turn the water off when you're brushing your teeth, and drive less, and that sort of thing. But for us, this is a political world we live in, and getting engaged in the policies, whether it's at the local, state, or federal level, I mean, Laurie, you know, it is absolutely critical for our elected officials to hear from people who want to make a difference with clean water. And while you may think it doesn't make a difference to call or write or email or go see, even best, your elected official, we've been told over and over and over again, you know, on many issues, if we get 10 communications, that's a lot. And especially when they're real people. If CBF sends an email, that's one thing, but if one of you calls, and especially if you know your elected official, and talks to them, that's huge. And so that's what I would encourage as much as anything. Get involved. It doesn't have to be CBF. It can be one of the local riverkeeper groups. It can be Land Conservancy. It can be any of the organizations working on the environment, but it really makes a difference.
Hey, Ryan, can I ask a question?
Sure, absolutely.
On that note, I'm very frustrated that the stormwater is being tried to be overturned, of course. It's one of the reasons why. And so what can we do, I mean, besides that, is there anything that we can do? No, just write and call, write and call, write and call?
Everybody might not know, there are basically 4 major sources of pollution in the Chesapeake Bay: sewage, agriculture, air. Some scientists think up to 30% of the nitrogen and phosphorus, nitrogen coming into the bay is airborne. Anytime you burn a fossil fuel, you send nitrous oxide into the air and it comes back down as nitrogen pollution. Big part of the systemic pollutants of the bay. And then the last is what runs off hardened surfaces. Suburban, urban areas, 1 inch of rain on 1 acre produces 30,000 gallons of polluted runoff. And it's not just clean rain. Everything that comes off our city streets, our suburban streets, is a really toxic brew of chemicals, dirts, cat and dog feces, et cetera, et cetera. And the state of Maryland 2 years ago passed what was called a stormwater utility fee, where the 10 largest jurisdictions in Maryland by July 1, 2013 had to set up a utility fee for their residents to pay for the practices which can reduce the impacts of this polluted runoff. Simplistically, it's slowing it down, allowing it to filter through green spaces. Sometimes it's hard technological baffles that will hold stormwater sediment control, things like that. But the technology is advancing, and in Anne Arundel County, the county council, after one of the most extraordinarily healthy sessions of the Chamber of Commerce, the environmental community, the development community, all came up with the plan that worked for Anne Arundel County. Each county could develop their own plan. The money's collected locally and spent locally. Laura, and I get along with her very well, Laura Newman came in and vetoed the bill after it had passed with a great bipartisan support. It was immediately overridden, and now it's going forward, but there's a lot of back and forth to try and weaken it at the state level as well. There's a lot of pushback. It's the only source of pollution that's growing. All the other sources are going down. So what you can do is let your elected officials know that if you think this is a source that should be controlled and that we should pay because it's coming off our land, then let them know.
Also, just to tell them, in case anybody's been, I went to your remediation across from the mall, and it's amazing. If you've never been, what's it called again? I apologize, the name of that one?
And I'm not sure
Behind the bowling alley?
I'm not sure I know which
Okay.
one. You may know more than I do. That happens to me all the time.
Well, there's a remediation area where they're trying to stop the runoff from the mall. And if you go to the bowling alley on General's Highway, you just walk down, it's amazing, it's acres. And they're trying to block it with all kinds of trees, you know, big wooden trees that they lay in the water, just trying to stop the runoff. And it's quite extensive, and it's really amazing. You should go down and you can just go at your own leisure and check it out. It's almost like a little park. You can go down there and walk through and see where your money goes.
These remediation areas, which is a green way of addressing stormwater runoff, is you get the stormwater to funnel through areas that have vegetation, that have soft grounds, and they filter through. And it not only beautifies the area, it also reduces flooding and it reduces pollution. A lot of the rhetoric in Maryland is, oh, Maryland's the only one forcing this on its citizens. Well, there have been 18 local jurisdictions in Virginia that have already imposed stormwater utility fees, more than Maryland. And you know, Virginia's thought, usually the rhetoric is, oh, Virginia's way behind Maryland on saving the bay. Well, here's a case where Virginia's ahead.
I'm in public relations, and I see that a lot of these issues get simplistically, it's the rain tax, it's the flush tax, it's right to life versus choice, all of which, you can't be against this, you can't be against that. Has the Chesapeake Bay Foundation come up with, in the past, nice, simplistic ways of explaining complicated things in terms of these kinds of phrases?
Well, polluted runoff was one where they were calling it the rain tax, and then stormwater, we did some polling. Nobody knows or cares what stormwater is, but polluted runoff, you get the sense of it pretty quick that there's something wrong with it. The Healthy Air Act was one that we called the Healthy Air Act before it had some crazy technical term and was not passed. And, you mentioned the flush tax. I have to tell a story because it's so great. When Bobby Ehrlich was in Congress, he would, at his invitation, would meet with me. We'd have breakfast at least once a year, often twice a year. And this is going back several years when there had not been much done on improving sewage treatment. He got very interested, learned a lot about it. The first sentence on his acceptance speech that night when he was elected was, "I am going to stop the pollution from sewage treatment plants as governor." That was the first thing he mentioned, and he got right in, worked on what was called the flush tax, and the Democrats in the General Assembly were not very happy that the Republican governor was the darling of the environmental community with this new fee to address sewage treatment plants. So we had a little problem on our hands. So we went to the Democrats and we said, here's a way you can strengthen it and take some ownership on it. Have it address septic systems as well as big sewage treatment plants. Great idea. They put that amendment in, and Governor Ehrlich went, because he got some pushback from the rural counties which hadn't had as much impact from the flush fee. "I can't pass it. I can't do it. I won't do it. I'm going to veto it." "Governor, you can't veto your own bill." He goes, "Oh, you're right." Okay, so he got back on board, and when it passed, everybody took credit for it, and it was one of these great cases where everybody was a winner. And it's a very, very small fee when you get down to it. It's done a terrific job in addressing sewage treatment.
Awesome. Anyone else have questions? Anything?
So how do you fight? I guess there's a lot of contention because you're trying to stop all this impervious surface runoff into the bay and the pollution, but then I guess the counties and the districts around the bay permit building right on the bay to sort of tear down the trees and allow new development. How do you sort of work within both groups to make sure that everybody's happy and you still clean it up?
It's always a couple steps forward for and then a step back. So nothing is perfect, and we're not building as close to the water as we all used to. And if you do good buffers, you can create a barrier, a buffer between the impervious surface and the water. I'm a hopeless optimist. And I am very much a glass half full person. We've seen real progress on the bay. We, meaning this whole community, a 6-state community, nowhere near done. But what's in place now is a federal-state partnership that all 6 states have bought into. It's been held up as a model for the nation. And whenever you have a model, there are people somewhere who are opposed to it. The American Farm Bureau Federation, the Fertilizer Institute, the National Hog Council, and a bunch of others all sued to try to stop this new protocol, which has been in place about 4 years. We call it the Chesapeake Clean Water Blueprint, in federal court, saying EPA, which set the standards for how much pollution needed to be reduced, and then each state can get to it the same any way they want, as long as they meet certain milestones. They said EPA was overreaching. They went to federal court. We're an intervener, which means we're a full defendant in the case. Long story short, Judge Sylvia Rambo. You can't make this stuff up. She's terrific. She's about 75 years old. She's in the Harrisburg Federal Court, little pince-nez glasses, great, tough federal jurist. She listened to the oral argument, did all the due diligence, took 11 months, and wrote a 98-page opinion throwing every one of their claims out. They appealed to the Third Circuit. And just 2 weeks ago, they brought in 21 other states from around the country, most in the Mississippi River drainage, because they're so worried that if this protocol works to clean up the Chesapeake Bay, it'll go to the Mississippi for the benefit of the Gulf of Mexico, which has a dead zone the size of Massachusetts, all the same issues that the Chesapeake has. And so they've brought in all these other states, and the pushback in those states, you're telling them they can't clean up their backyard, is unbelievable. Carl Hyacin, anybody ever read any of his books? He writes for the Miami Herald. Go online on our website and read Carl's op-ed in the Florida paper, in the Miami Herald, about what the Attorney General of Florida is trying to do. You'll laugh and you'll get such a great message. But anyway, this is all happening now, trying to stop us from something that's working here, because they're afraid it might come, God forbid, we clean up the Gulf of Mexico. Crazy. You just got to keep at it.
Yeah.
Any last questions or anything else? Kurt?
We've gone back in time, but what about the next 3 or 5 years? What are the big challenges that are coming out that you can forewarn us and get our help in, ahead of time?
Well, we're literally spending 80% of our advocacy at the federal, state, and local level on defending and implementing this clean water blueprint. We're raising money to do it. We're doing everything from doing technical assistance to counties. The first thing counties did was they costed out how much it would cost to implement, and invariably the numbers were orders of magnitude above what they really are. So we'll come in, we'll work with the counties, help them reduce their costs, and that's just part of the implementation phase. Defending in court and in Congress, some of the efforts in Congress to kill it are all over our website, and you can go there and learn what you can do to help in there. But what I think is the biggest challenge right now is, one, keeping a very, very nascent effort to get agriculture on board and working. It's the cheapest way to get a pound of nitrogen or phosphorus out of the system. So anything, you're probably not all, probably aren't any farmers in the room, but anything we can do to keep encouraging and giving credit and working with the agricultural community is huge, because a lot of them are fighting back. The Farm Bureau is certainly their big lobbying arm. And then this work on stormwater, I use the term, on polluted runoff. That's the new frontier, and that's just now beginning. We just put out a report that shows the solutions and the problems of not addressing it. It's on our website, again, cbf.org. So getting involved, that's critical. I have one thing I haven't even talked about are fisheries issues. They're so, Menhaden, some of the rollback in Virginia, they're trying to rescind the ban on dredging female crabs in the winter in Virginia, which it took us years and finally got. So yeah. You all don't want to stay as long as I can keep talking.
So you mentioned advocacy, and I think ultimately at the end of the day that's a big push. But I'm curious about working with developers, because ultimately the stormwater and the runoff, it affects their business. People want to build more. We bring more people in the state in certain areas, and we got pad sites and more impervious surface. How are you guys working with developers, like big notable companies, to improve their practices and make it more acceptable? And Because ultimately, if you want to build something, it feels, oh my God, it cost me this much money to develop this site, or I got to have a certain percentage be, you know, turf block or something. And is that really viable for what I'm doing out here?
Our headquarters, the Philip Merrill Center, first LEED Platinum in the world. We cut the ribbon 14 years ago. We've had people from all over the world come through there, and locally, tons of developers and builders. When we got started, we went to a fellow who had been a longtime supporter of CBF to be the builder. His name was Jim Clark, the third largest construction company in the country. And Jim said, Will, I'll do anything you want. I'll paint it green if you want me to, but he said, don't go into that. He said, stick to what you're doing, saving the bay. He said, this green building stuff, you know, don't go in that direction. We stuck with our guns. He obviously built the building. It's won dozens and dozens of awards. The AIA Business Week Award was the most prestigious. And Clark Construction now has an entire division building green buildings. It is one of their big money makers. It's all over, our building is all over their website. And LEED and green building is not just energy efficiency, sustainable materials in the building, it's what goes around the building and how you can control and address stormwater runoff, polluted runoff. So we've been very active with that building, and now we're doing another one that's even more ambitious in Virginia Beach with another green building category called Living Building Challenge, which is way beyond LEED Platinum. And in all of these, we invite developers, we invite the real estate community to come in and see, and mostly they're very impressed and look for ways that they can incorporate some of these into their own buildings. Does it cost more? Absolutely costs more. So there's no getting around that, but the prices have come way down. It's like one writer said the Merrill Center was like the first pocket calculator. You know, it had never been done that way before. And now, as you have more pocket calculators, obviously the prices are coming down. So it's getting better.
So I guess just getting to a state of this is the new normal, this is how it's being done.
That's how it is. All right, one last question, because we want to end right on time. Yeah. So, yes. All right. Yeah. So we'll make this last one.
I've been really curious about all the fertilizer that we put on our lawns, and I just wondered how big a problem that is. We looked at this whole area. If all of us voluntarily, just with the lawns.
If you want to look at a lawn that has no fertilizer or pesticides or herbicides, come to my place. And weeds are very pretty, actually.
but it isn't pushed. It should be pushed.
It should be. Scott's has done a good job in reducing nitrogen in their fertilizers. But, I mean, you know, we tell people, if you have to have a green lawn, please go out and work with a professional and get soil tests. Because with fertilizer, if a little is good, a lot is better is not true. And when you apply fertilizer, don't apply fertilizer in the fall, because that makes the roots grow up, the plants grow quickly and no roots. Apply it in the spring. Get that deep root base. So there are ways you can use fertilizer, good soil tests, applying at the right time, not using too much. But heck, I mean, do we need these perfectly manicured green lawns? Our lawn's great. You know, once you get used to it, it's fine.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you all, and good luck to everybody. What a great thing.
Rick, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Every time my friends come in town, so